the power of relevance and its perhaps surprising role in connection. In order for us to truly thrive, and experience well-being, we need to feel something fundamental. We need to feel relevant. But relevance isn't just about what we do or accomplish. It's deeper than that. It's about who we are. It's about knowing that the essence of you, your existence, your presence, matters in this world. Sadly, though, the world in which we live today has shifted. So much of our identity is wrapped up in doing. The tasks, the achievements, the hustle. But relevance can't only be found in the work we do or the roles we play, especially now. You see, relevance has to be found, or perhaps rediscovered in connection. This is because our relevance is generally only discovered, or at least reinforced through the eyes of others, starting as children through the eyes of our parents, and then through teachers, friends, and the world at large. But unfortunately, as the world has shifted, the understanding and experience of relevance has become misunderstood and misplaced. That's right. Society as a whole has somehow misplaced relevance, attaching it to certain mistaken or misguided ideals and objectives. This is not to suggest that all of these ideals and objectives are wrong, but rather that this paints us into a rather narrow corner. A corner where individuals oftentimes feel understood and valued merely for their output and acquisitions. What you do for a living, what status you have achieved, and how much money you have in the bank. Oh yes, and perhaps how many followers you have accumulated on Instagram, or YouTube views. Don't believe me? Take a look at how our kids are desperately pursuing high marks, high-paying careers, and large gatherings, whether online or in person. This is because they feel that it is the only way to achieve relevance. So while high marks and successful careers may indeed be noble goals, we have to see beyond this. Otherwise, we lose sight of all the other meaningful objectives, all the other essentials that should be relevant, that not only make us relevant, but makes life meaningful. So we have to stop pursuing relevance where it calls for us to stomp on the dreams of others, to take your top off or torture a fellow teen to get the views. We cannot accept a world where that is just seen as the price you pay need to be relevant. Otherwise, we become blinded to the suffering of others and ultimately to the suffering we inflict on ourselves. You see, while the pursuit of some of these goals may be fine, there is ultimately a desperation attached to it in the modern world. A desperation that is mercilessly robbing us of our real relevance and our very humanity. Just take a look at the case of childhood YouTube star and kidfluencer Tiffany in The Dark Side of Kidfluencing on Netflix. Here you will see the line individuals will go to in a desperate attempt to keep growing the numbers. So we have desperation that I would argue is being birthed and nourished in the way in which these ideals and goals are being upheld and pursued to the exclusion of all else. The result, a negative impact on how we live, on how we interact with others and ourselves. In essence, changing the very foundation of what it means to be human. Take a look around. How many of us, both young and old, feel unseen, disconnected, fearful? Take a closer look at the silent epidemic we have created, a deep loneliness masked by busyness. A life where relevance is reduced to metrics and genuine connection feels increasingly distant. It is as if we have become merely gears in a machine that measures success by productivity and followers, that measures our value by our status as rainmakers and our pertinence by our ability to meet some undisclosed target. But what does this do to the very essence of who we are, and how can we change this? If we are to survive and thrive, as a society and as individuals, we need to reclaim our relevance. not through wars and acts of aggression, not through attempts to suppress others or diminish their value, not through competition or acquisition of clients, cash, or continents. In fact, it is this pursuit that leaves us in our current desolate space. So how do we reclaim our relevance? It all begins with the simple truth that our presence matters and our words matter. In our next episode, we will discuss how the time and energy constraints seem to threaten this very truth, and how we need to take back our time in order to take back our relevance. But for now, let's try remember that each of us have to matter simply because we are here. Let's try accepting this standard for ourselves and for others too. Relevance cannot just be tied to action. It has to be tied to something far deeper and far more meaningful. And this relevance needs to be retied to connection, to creating those moments when we see each other not just for what they can do for you or for what they have achieved, but for who they are. That is a key part to the foundation of well-being. It's about creating that sense of belonging, that sense of being valued, and that feeling of being loved and appreciated. This is what it means to create a space where people can thrive, where they can step out and create meaning instead of stepping out merely to achieve, to step out of isolation and into connection. In a world that too often values productivity over presence, we are reaching out to create a place for connection that rises above competition. The focus here extends relevance beyond productivity, rooting it in connection, belonging, and being valued as a human. This approach shifts the narrative from a task-oriented view of purpose to one that's holistic and deeply humanistic.